praise you and I worship you for who you are. Okay, for those who have the question, it's not a dumb question. It's a very intelligent question. It's one I asked, and it requires perhaps another explanation, because I've done videos where I broke down respectfully to my big op. I've broken down the name of the Messiah a number of ways, a number of times, and I've explained my stance on it a number of ways, a number of times, but I understand, and I understand that there are people who are new. And so, how do you know with 100 and some videos which one to listen to? So this is for you, and especially you. So with respect to the things that we've been taught, first and foremost, I have to lay out a little bit of my stance, what brought me to where I am. Okay, and I hate to run down my pedigree, my credentials, because I'm not a dog, but you'd rather call me dog than teacher. I know some of you. That's all right. We call each other dog in Detroit. But ain't no lycanthropy jumping off. No wolf man. But they might call me Jack. Have mercy. But it's a matter of fact. All praises due. I'm playing my cousins in the background. I've come a long way. And I used to teach some of the very same things that some of you are now learning from others. And I regret that I was once under different deceptions at different times. As I've said a number of times, I never was raised up in the black church, okay? Unlike my great auntie, Maddie Moss, who was very dedicated and sanctified, I was lawless. And it was a bit of rebellion, if you will, that may have been passed down on some levels, because it was the admission to me by my old bird. It was that Maddie was so strict and would take her to church, and she saw the bad side, as most things do have a side that you like, 360, and a side that you don't like, another 360. She saw that one end, and she didn't like the strictness. So she gave me a lot of freedom concerning my beliefs. So when I was 17, 18, I chose to roll with Islam. And I chose to go to Mosque number 1, on Finkel Avenue in Detroit, where Elijah Muhammad first was met by Fard Muhammad. And I stayed in that teaching for a few years, not very long, because I was guided by the Most High to go along this pathway, not knowing which way He would lead me. I just knew that I did not believe what Pastor Porkchop and them was saying. I still don't believe what Pastor Porkchop and them are saying. They playing. But anyway, I went through that belief system. Studied with and about the nation of gods and earth. Also studied all sorts of alternative belief systems. And when I say alternative belief systems, I mean specifically the things that are considered New Age and Aquarian Age philosophies. Then I began to get into the Egyptian belief system, the Ma'at, and different things of that nature. I went down through there. Metu Neter, the Book of Coming Forth by Day and by Night, called the Book of the Dead by some, even the Bhagavad Gita. So I just look like this, okay? And some people, I'm not talking to everybody, are not accustomed to brothers who are able to adjust their vernacular. You don't have to curse if you're really saying something spectacular. That's my opinion. Other people have their own opinion. But I believe that the truth is like a sword, and it will cut through any cord if you just say it. So I went through those teachings. Again, my father and grandfather were both into the conjuring arts, demonology, if you will. And my father and grandfather both manifested a being. Okay, this was something that was taught to my grandfather by way of Sam Ramey Sr., who was his boss at Ramey's Curtains. And Granddad was very loyal as an employee and became his friend. And he showed him some things. Okay, when Granddad made some admissions to him about some suspicions that he had. It was Mr. Ramey's assertion that there were some things he could do. You know, in those particular brotherhoods and belief systems that we've talked about a number of times with a number of videos, they will teach the men how to control their women by way of hypnosis, mind control, which are all nothing but branches of witchcraft. So for those of you who only will follow the breadcrumbs that are left behind by academia, you may have the intellectual side or the factual side, facts as you know them, as we're taught to believe they're facts if they come from the scholarly pursuit of knowledge, universities and colleges and whatnot. But there's a spiritual lens, okay? Everything does not come from the linear logic side of things. And I've said that a number of times. But again, I was heavily into linear logic. And I read all sorts of books that you would consider New Age or Aquarian Age. I would consider that also today. I was very much into mentalism. I even got to the point where I did not believe that there was a higher power, a most high, an almighty, true and living creator, aside from the brain. I had believed the propaganda that said that, well, because we only use a small percentage of our brain power and geniuses might use 12 or 13%. I thought it was logical, using my linear logic, that, well, okay, the other parts, that would make you godlike. What would you do? You would fly, you would. And these are beliefs that are implanted into our psyches by way of brotherhood writers, scholars, and academics, okay, the professors and the students as well, and those who fund the colleges and universities, so-called philanthropists. You know, you go to a particular hall in your college or university, it will have a person's name on it. That family funded that hall or university. Well, just any baby bear square can't do that. So again, we're talking about a concentrated, concerted effort to corral knowledge down a particular pathway. I want you to walk this way. Have mercy. And I was going that way. Okay? I had fun. Okay? I smoked my weed. I drank my 40s. I wrote my raps after I did my work. It was a way for me to keep a cover. Okay? Like a lot of teens do. I lived a double life. I never had a problem doing my work, and it's only to God be the glory. I went to Detroit public schools. But as an only child, I was often entertained with books, writing, and drawing. My mom, she would bring me books home. And every time we had the weekly reader thing to order books, I would order books about weird stuff, UFOs, secrets and mysteries, and things of that nature. That was always my inclination. The sins of the father should be passed down to the son. And when I got to be 14, which was before I looked into Islam, I decided that I wanted to overstand sorcery and witchcraft. And so I knew that they had books tucked away where the dirty books was at. I found those. Have mercy. They had witchcraft books in the same drawer in the basement. And I would go in the basement, creep them out, take them, read them, keep them. Because something had obviously frightened them from those belief systems. Now, let's get to Egypt. The deeper I got into Egypt, the more I found correlations between what these books said and what my Egyptian books said. Between my Egyptian books and my witchcraft books, I found direct correlation. Okay, some of the same beings mentioned, such as Thoth and Horus or Heru. Okay, and I believe that those are the same entities. I don't think that it's just another being. I think it's the Greek name for the same being. Okay? In those cases, because I'm going to tell you something was devoid from those books. The name that I would find myself feeling disdain for, and that was the name Jesus, which of course I had been taught a number of ways. I might look a little youngish, but I got these white hairs honest. Okay? They say you ain't too old if you ain't too cold. But I turned 41 this year. And I first began my journey really getting deep into things 14. The reverse. Isn't that interesting? But I say all of that to say, when I got to the Egyptian leg of my journey, which I stayed in for quite some time, it was from there I went into Nuwapu, which I found to be a CIA-controlled, mind-controlled program. A way to low-key indoctrinate you into mind control, indoctrinate you into demonology, indoctrinate you into witchcraft, noir. And of course, if you know anything about what was taught in that particular study, you will find a lot of the same correlation between witchcraft and Egyptology that I found before I knew what a Nuwabu was. Now, we know Dr. York has been around for a long time. He was key to promoting the deceptions that were being brought to us by way of golden era East Coast hip hop, because he was big in Brooklyn. And all my favorite MCs had a tad bit of New Age philosophy to them, or Islam. Big Daddy Kane, Rakim, Brand Nubians, you know the list, Gangstar. So that furthered my desire to learn what they learned. And after I saw I wanted to go higher, then again I went off into trying to find out about what exactly is the Egyptian belief system beyond the lightweight jam of it all. I wanted to understand, how did the pharaohs get to believe themselves to be God, and the true meaning of alchemy, not turning base metals to gold, turning man to God. And so my desire, and again, this is my story, and it got to be yours. Okay? I don't have no hatred for what you believe. Okay? Because I know some of you believe it, you got it honest. The same way I did. It's only to the grace of God, to the grace of the Most High, true and living. And, you know, we're not going to play semantics. And we've been taught, mistaught, this language rooted in spelling for many years. So I will misspeak. If you're looking for flaws in me, you will find them. I'm a flawed man. And it was only by the grace of the Creator's hand that I didn't land where I was trying to land. And I've had astral projections. I've done different forms of mind control on others. I've talked about these things. I've repented for them too. Big shout out to my brother DJ Los, my big op. Who came, Yashalom. Excuse me. Who came from the hip hop world too. Pioneering group here. Well, in the city I'm from, the D. DJ Los and Easy B, Untouchables. One of the first hip hop records I ever remember seeing come from Detroit. Detroit had a long history of hip hop before Eminem. Okay. And this brother knew that I was heavy in Dr. York. He would come to my meetings. And again, you know, as I began to discover things about Dr. York that wasn't right, that made my game detectors go off, I backed off until I totally backed away. And DJ Los was a huge part of that, because he came to me showing me some things that Doc had said about Hebrew that, according to what he had said himself, could not be true. It's interesting how we don't see a certain part of mind control in our particular belief system when we have affinity for it. We have a preference for it. It's good not to have no preference. Okay? I'm willing to learn new things every day. Okay? When you believe that you know it all, you better believe you don't know much. A wise man knows that he knows not. And of course, you know, in all of my studies, I was seeking for knowledge of self. KOS. Chaos. Not knowing. And in seeking for knowledge of self, I stayed for the longest in the Egyptian belief system. It made sense to me, academically, as a person that believed in books. It made sense. It was the oldest. It had to be true. Everything after that had to be tainted. It made perfect linear logic. Okay? And it wasn't until I began to read the writings that I found from people in the Brotherhood, picking up on what the Brotherhood was about. I'd like to find out a secret. I really do. If I could find it out without having to go through it firsthand. And I found out a lot of secrets. One of the things that at first validated my Egyptian studies was that I saw, well, this is what the secret societies believe. So now I'm on to something. So I said, yeah, I need to keep going down this path. At some point in that journey, I began to talk to my old dude about it. And my old dude, as I said, he must have backed up off of these things for something, for some reason. And he never belonged to a secret society. But he traveled those places and spaces. And he knew a lot of people. And when he would get drunk, he would say a lot of things. A lot of things that I thought was weird when I was little. He'd bang the wall and say, I'm a warlock, damn it. Or he'd tell me, he'd wait till he get blowed and say certain things. And he'll tell me, yeah, I used to work for such and such, big gangsters. And yeah, I used to take him to the wall for him. He would say he was a hitman. He would say he was a pimp. He would say all these things, and of course, when a man is drunk saying these things, you don't pay too much attention to it. But as I got older and began to learn more about secret societies, and today, I don't think that all of that was drunk talk. So when I began to talk to him about these things, he said, well, you know, you need to read Crowley. Now, he didn't say it to me like, so you can know what time it is. He said it to me more like, maybe that'll get your mind right and back you up off of this stuff. Because I was very determined. And when I want to know something, I become very determined. So I went on ahead. I got a couple Crowley books on my own. And I would creep back there in his room and creep his up out of there. I wanted to know all I could about it. And of course, shocking to find out that Crowley was a boy toy. Literally. He liked boys. He said in one interview that he had killed over 150 young boys one year. And how that could come out in the paper and nobody investigate him is proof positive that this brotherhood stretches far and wide. He had a particular working. That's what they call magic rituals in his vernacular, or in the vernacular of he and his kind, where they would snap a little boy's neck at the point of climax, and all kind of sick stuff. Plus, he was a dope fiend, so I began to look at things a little bit differently. But the whole time, he's pushing basically the same thing that not only did I find Dr. York teaching, but I saw the thin line between what he was pushing and what the other books I would read to learn the Egyptian mystery system would push as well. So the Egyptian mystery system ceased to be a mystery to me. Along this time, a third member of my group, the little rap group I put together, was in 3-card Molly, named Vex. We came up with his name together. We wanted to pull something out of the Bible. We thought the Bible was all Masonic talk with deeper meanings. You know, none of it was real. And so we didn't take no credence or power in the word Vex. We just thought it sounded sweet. So he goes on ahead and he picks the name. You know, we both looked in the Bible. I don't remember who found it first. He picks the name. Vex means confused, torn. And he was met by a young guy in line at the 7-Eleven, I think it was, who gave him his first scroll. This guy, an extraterrestrial. And he brought it over there to me. And because of the bait that was given by Dr. York to lure in those who want to study the higher sciences, I was hooked. I wanted to read more about this man. Okay, as much as I can. I mean, one time I told my girl, I said, you know, you're gonna be in the wobbly. I finally found something I'm gonna stick with, something I'm gonna believe in. So you're gonna be in the wobbly, you know, we're gonna break up. That night, she gassed up the car, and we went down to the land in Eatonton, Georgia. And upon arriving there, I saw more things that was left for me to see by the Creator to show me that this was a game being run. A grand game, a tight game. So we're talking about a tight game being run. The game is tight. So, like I said, my man DJ Los came through after, you know, coming to my classes. You know, he supported what I was doing because every good lie is founded upon the truth. So the truth that I was telling was bringing in a lot of folk. Okay, a lot of people from the hip-hop consciousness community will come through. Okay, and I held them regularly. You know, in lieu of church, you were supposed to come to this. My grandma would say, "You preaching today?" I would laugh like, "Yeah, I'm preaching, Grandma." But I wasn't preaching. I was teaching the Egyptian mystery system as I had found it to be. I was teaching that this was our power that we needed to use against the enemy. I was teaching anti-Illuminati things and anti-New World Order things. I was teaching about the Federal Reserve System and all of those different things. I was teaching about mind control and the Tavistock Institute, Disney World, backward masking and records. But I was young. Okay, I wasn't 30 when I began. I used to rock a herringbone with a big gold ump and my Casellis. And I was full of myself. And I would have carried on that way for some time until, and you know, again, all of this time, love to have Christians come down. I would battle Jehovah's Witnesses, Christians, whoever. And I would love to have them come down so I could decimate them. Very few of them knew what their book was supposed to say. I studied the Bible, didn't believe it, but I studied it just to have it as fuel, I thought at the time. That was my only reason, I thought. So I would have it as fuel to fool on them. Little did I know. But how little did I know. Now I've come to this conclusion. And I didn't believe in demons, didn't believe in Jesus or demons. Overstand, please do. So we don't have to do this again. And I won't be convinced otherwise, okay? I'm not the seeing and believing type. I'm the believing and seeing type. But I don't deny what I know to be true after I've tested it in practical application. Some things sound good when they're written. The pursuit of knowledge is good, it has its place. But knowledge without wisdom, there's no understanding. Without understanding, overstanding and understanding is impossible. So, in short, because I've told this story a number of times, a number of ways. If you look in White Jesus, Black Jesus, No Jesus, No Jesus. That's a video I did on this. Also, I think it's Jesus versus Yah. What are the true names of Yah versus Jesus? Something like that. It's in there. It's in there. At a certain point, I started to share this with others, but let me just make it a little bit more plain for my sisters and brothers. We've been lied to. We've been lied to by those that pretend to oppose the enemy, and we've been lied to, of course, by Pastor Porkchop and them. I believe most of you are aware of that. But we've also been lied to. This may be the kicker that you might not have looked at before. Maybe you have. But we're going to look at it a little bit more closely. We're going to do the science and the math. We've also been lied to by scholars and academics, in which we trust. It's the foundation of the fury for some of us. The black and white chessboard dynamic. The breadcrumbs that are left along a certain pathway by way of books. You'll be locked in a box of books, you'll be dumb as a box of rocks. I was. Speak for myself. Because I believe that if you looked in an old enough book, it had to be the truth. If it came from a university or a college, I remember one time telling this same sister that we used to study things together. I led a lot of people down a bold path, okay, by telling them things did not exist that do. When you go through the system of 5% nation and the Moorish science, they'll tell you about spookism. And when I first went to my first Moorish science meeting, I just could not get over how much Masonic imagery there was. Yet I couldn't see it in Dr. York. Do you understand? Because that was the system I was preferring. When you give something preferential treatment, you will be deceived. And so I was indeed deceived. And I didn't see that part. Pride. Pride will give you a blind side. Okay? So, I didn't believe in no type of ghosts and demons and things of that nature. I didn't think nothing like that could exist. I didn't care who said it. So there was only one way, if it were true, for me to believe it. Okay. Now, I read all kind of things about ghosts and poltergeists. Poltergeist was one of my favorite movies, The Exorcist 2. But I thought it was great Hollywood speculation, fictional creation. No truth to it. Great story. I would hear people say things like the story of Sybil was true and different things of that nature. I just didn't believe any of that. It was too fantastic for me to believe simply by reading, when I had read so many fantastic stories and seen such great science fiction epics like the Star Wars sagas, Star Trek and the rest. I wasn't a big Star Trek fan. I was into Star Wars. I saw the comparisons. I saw the analogies. Dr. York pointed out some of those things. Yes, he did. Again, he was a master at blending lies and truth. And he would tell us certain lies. Okay? He would point us to certain lies concerning the movie industry and writing and whatnot. And then at the same time, he would feed us, mistruths too. So while you're eating that lie, while you're eating that lie, you're thinking that you're getting the truth. And he did that. And as is the devil's way, he ended up getting thrown up under the bus at the end of the day. Have mercy. But he's not the only one that does it. It's done a variety of ways. You see, the names change, but the game's the same. So now let's come to this. If you believe that there is an Illuminati, if you believe that there is a New World Order, how can you believe? This is the big question here. How can you believe that there is a New World Order or an Illuminati, or that there is a conspiracy against us, either as an ethnicity, as a nationality, or as a whole? Because if you study a little taste, you see that they out to kill every colored face. Have mercy. That these elite want very few people left here. Just enough to work and for them to eat. Have mercy. But, sacrifice and feed to their gods when it's time for sacrifice, to their demons. I did not understand that the gods of ancient times were spirit beings. God is supposed to be a spirit. It just wasn't connected to me. And I didn't understand why they required sacrifice of some kind, even in Santeria. Okay? Different Yoruban practices. I didn't get it at the time. It was a little gang goofy. Now I understand the many different styles that this one deception comes in, because one style don't get everybody. Okay? It's as diverse as Prince music. They got something for everybody. You might not like this style, but there's another style here for you. And the pro-black style is a difficult one to see through, unless you really want to see through. For some people, that's the place they want to stay. Like some folk want to stay with Pastor Pork Chop. He make them feel good. Feeds their emotions. Emotion, energy and motion. Hold your energy until you really need it, because you just may one day. But That's what we should do, in my opinion. But yes, if you believe that there is this conspiracy afoot, then how can you simultaneously believe that you'll find the truth in a book when it's from off of their shelves that the books are took? Have mercy. Taken. Whose shelves? Well, who writes and publishes the books? Who has the okay or the say-so or the go-ahead to let out certain truths while others are suppressed? Are truths suppressed or not? If truths are suppressed, then who is it that says, okay, this one we let out, this one we don't? Excuse me, they're called by many names, but the game's the same. Some people don't like the term Illuminati, the powers that be, the elite of the world, the kings of this earth, however you want to look at it. But from the very beginning, the kings of this earth were deceived by these spirit beings. Now, their organizations, their brotherhoods, their secret societies are usually listed somewhere in the pages of the book, in the front or the back, or somewhere in the writing of the book. They must, because they do that for other brotherhood members, for other brothers, they must leave some code. I had a book called 1001 Things to Ask a Mason, I believe was the name of it. But aside from the thing that, a lot of people know one or two codes. I'm sure they don't even use those codes. But they have 1001. In this book, there was 1001 codes. There's a bookstore, Anyhow, I found it many years ago. And there's a lot of questions that you can ask. One of them is, who started the public school system? Owned and operated, began the first public school system? They did. So scholastic pursuits are tainted. Okay? If you only see the linear logic side, you have a blind side. Okay? Also, if you believe that there is this collective, this new world order, do you believe that there are any black folks involved? How about Jewish folk? If there are black folks and Jewish folks involved, and again, my grandfather's knowledge of the demonology came from a Jewish man. They bought their home from a Jewish man. We stayed in a neighborhood that was once a Jewish neighborhood. There are lots of areas in Detroit like that, where the only people that would sell to black people was the Jewish people. Okay? This is part of a dynamic that goes way back. Okay? Part of the Zionist agenda and the Boule agenda and how they tie together. Okay? How the Zionists and the Jesuits work together to fund a lot of pro-black stuff. They work together, the Jewish elite and the black elite, because they both want to push you to one side of the street. They have a shared enemy. An enemy of an enemy is a frenemy. So they want to push you away from Scripture. They want to push you away from the old prophets, that some of whom there's no dispute, even in academia in which you trust. Some of whom there's no dispute whether or not they lived and what they did. Okay? The biggest dispute is over the Messiah. Interesting. And it's these two secret societies that tie together and that work together in order to rope you off, keep you away from identification with the Messiah, and to cause you to identify with a sire, a king. We weren't all kings and queens. Who would be the subjects? No one would get along nor sing a song, because everyone be singing for the king. Am I wrong? That's my philosophy. Have mercy. So, when you look at where you get your belief system from, You have to look at the source of the information that you check other information against. This is a deep and intricate trick bag, my old dude used to say. Okay? And it's hard to get out of. I understand it. But I now believe that we've been lied to on levels that we haven't even considered. As of yet, perhaps that's one of the things that it would be the Creator's will for me to accomplish. To just bring that to mind. What if we were lied about concerning the language of Hebrew? Did you know that there's a head rabbi over everything that comes out concerning Hebraic? When there's one man in charge, there's only one man that has to be compromised, and then the whole system beneath becomes tainted. I believe that things that are truly of the Creator cannot be tainted. Okay? So I don't think things can be deleted as much as as new meanings can be inserted. Okay? False teachings can be inserted. And it's been my belief since I've come into contact with something I did not believe in a most dramatic way, a most dramatic fashion. Okay? When an extra dimensional entity comes through a monophonic device, a telephone, when its voice comes through there, first and foremost, in your head. And I was a thinking man. Still am a thinking man to a certain degree, and then I know how to let something think that's smarter than me. And that's the Creator. But I was a thinking man, and I thought that was superior and supreme. So I was very aware of my thoughts. And this was not my thought, nor was it my voice that I think in. You know what voice you think in. I hope you do. And it said, fear me, which is I've now come to overstand. Some 11 years later, I've come to understand that they need you to fear them. So it's not for you to fear them, because if you fear them, then you give up your power. You have power and dominion over them. They are lower beings, lower than you. That's why they're constantly at war with you. Okay? They got beef. They're upset. They want what you got. Okay? That's why pride is a big one. Anger. Some of the same things that Yoda said will turn you to the dark side. Ironically. Because in every lie, there has a good lie anyway. A lie that will stand for some time, there has to be a foundation of truth. So I now believe that we've been lied to concerning the name of the Messiah. Because every time I get a chance to dance with one of these entities, as a thinking man, I throw a few names out there. Still to this day. Now, isn't that lack of faith on my behalf? After I saw it the first time, when it came through the phone and spoke into my head first, then when I was still game goofy and I called the person's name, I thought, I just wasn't, it just could not register to me because it was not real to me. So it's not something I could have been imagining. It was totally out of my realm of possibility. Then it growled, and when it growled in quadraphonic, stereo surround sound. You got a phone up to one ear, you hear the voice on the other side, at the other ear, over your head, behind you, under your chair, and in front of you. Have mercy. Now this defied the laws of physics as I know them in this dimensional reality. So now I began to look again at some of the things I learned in my Egyptian studies, where they do talk about other realms and whatnot. Okay. Verbs of power, words of power. And so I began to throw some words of power that I had learned at it. Seemed like it fed it. It growled again, stronger. Quadraphonic stereo surround sound. And there was an effect that we used, and then I'm gonna close. So, we don't have to struggle. And, we respect everybody's ability to express themselves. But there was an effect in the studio called rotary effect. If you put a rotary effect on something, it'll go around all the speakers, around. Maybe you've heard that on different records. But anyhow, it was a rotary effect on top of it. And I'm like, wow, this is impossible. So I said the names that were supposed to work, the names I learned from my Egyptian studies, didn't work. Said names I learned from my Islamic studies, didn't work. It so happened it came out while I was reading in jest a book called Exorcism, Fact or Fiction, and I was reading from the section that I thought had some scripture in it, because I was reading it just to learn up on extra dimensionals, as I had ran into something I thought might have been one before. So I said, let me read up on this. Again, believing in books. I had 20-something books on the subject. I told the story before, so I'm going to go back through the whole thing. But anyhow, I was believing in books. So I said, well, let me read up on this subject. I had this particular book. I was talking to this young lady, and, we was, she was married, and we was messing around. And I knew she was a believer. Well, she professed to believe and go to church and things. So I would, to get her off the phone, I joked as she was falling asleep. I joked, you want me to read to you since you're falling asleep? She responded back in a quiet, hypnotic sounding, yes. Sounded like she was hypnotized. Or maybe it was to hypnotize me, I don't know. But I said, you want me to read you some Bible? Yes. My Bible was too far away. It was in the basement, I believe. But on the table, I had this book. I grabbed the book, fingers opened up the book to the middle where I thought there's got to be some scripture all through this dang book. I thought, this guy believes in that fairy tale stuff. I thought, when the book opened up, and this is the last time I'm going to tell this story, because after that I'm going to know where everybody at. After the book opened up, yeah, that's right. I said, the line on the page said, how to begin an exorcism. I'm in jest mode. I'm on fun time status. I started reading, ran across the word Jesus a couple times, and it began to manifest. From a little light snore to a heavy bass-filled growl. I worked in the studios for years. You know what it sounds when you turn up the low end. That's the low end theory. When you turn up the low end, you turn up the bass in the sample. And the low end was heavy. I was like, whoa, she can do her voice like this? I called her name. Such and such? I said, this is not such and such. Fear me. In my head. Then the growling commenced. So I saw that it was the book, using a little linear logic. Well, it's the book that got this to jumping off. I said, well, maybe I need to keep reading this here book. Still not believing. After I threw the names out, it seemed like it fed the thing, made it louder, stronger, more bass. Then I went on ahead and I said, well, let me go ahead and see, when I talk like this, people think I'm simple. I'm relaxed right now, because there ain't nothing to be scared about. Okay? The will of the Most High be done. But I threw the names out. Yes, the Hebrew too. Or what we were taught was that name by scholars of Hebrew. And I threw all those names out at it with equal belief, or I should say, really I had more belief that the older names that I had been taught would work. None of them seemed to quench this thing or turn it down. So linear logic kicked in. I said, let me read from this book here again and see what else will happen. So I'm a little throwed. Okay? I'm like the dullest knife in the drawer. But I don't think the way others think. To the Most High be the glory. So I went to reading the book, and have mercy. What happened? Ran across the name Jesus, the name which I had no psychic attachment, no subconscious belief in. If anything, a hint of disdain. Because I said, this is Jesus. Like the Zeus on your hog head cheese, or the god of Olympus, Zeus, J for Y. I know that like the back of my hand. I used to teach people this. I used to destroy Christians who had little faith. Okay? Perhaps the Creator was allowing for me to test them, as I too would be tested. So anyhow, just reading the book with no emphasis behind the name or anything. I said the name and the thing felt pain. Have mercy. It registered in my brain. Okay, wait a minute. I was shocked and surprised. But guess what? I'm not a game goofy goober. I started just saying that name then. So, okay, I see what works. I don't care if you don't like to hit with your left hand. If you see that left keep working, I bet you can work it out till it's so. And that's what happened. And I don't believe it's like Constantine in the movies where he had a medallion or some sort of amulet that had different signs for different people. You know, I don't know about that. But so far, it's internationally known to rock a microphone. So don't get stupid, nor outrageous. Stop rapping. Okay. So I've said all I want to say. But yeah, so that's where I get my usage of the name from. Not from any ignorance or lack of knowledge, because they're two different things, about what is said in studies that come from the top down about what the name should be and who's at the top. If you believe scripture, it says that the adversary is the prince of this world and the god of this age. So from the top down, your university, universe, one verse, one world order, one belief. Your university pushes the one belief to form you all as one. Same way the military does it. Same way secret societies do it, by any name. They try to force you into being one. I encourage your free thoughts. I don't wish or attempt to push my beliefs on anyone at any time. This is my story. It's my channel. If you got you a name on this channel, then you can put your game on this channel. Don't put your game on my channel. Do you? Another way of saying, man, do as thou wilt, huh? No, I will that all would be free, okay, from the bondage of mind control by any name, from the black and white chessboard dynamic, okay? Genetics are so mixed up and twisted up now, it's beyond that. It don't even make linear logical sense anymore. It's usually light-skinned people that push that too. That's interesting to me. A man named Ben Jealous, the head of the NAACP. It's interesting to me. But if you look around, and no, I'm not demonizing anyone's shade. We're all beautiful in our own way. But I'm just talking about how the game is played. But if you look around, you'll find this agenda that I spoke of earlier in the video. The agenda to push us into Egyptian magic. You'll find it displayed a number of different ways. Some of them will sound good to you. Okay, it'll sound good to you, so you put your game detector on. And for some of you, that's the Holy Spirit, the Ruach. Okay, has it all been tainted? Any of it that's not holy anything that's not of God can be tainted. But if something is of God, quote unquote, you know what I mean, it can't be tainted. Did the Most High ever create a thing? Did the Most High ever, I'm talking about when the Most High puts the words in the prophet's mouth. Can some goofy goober or lame with a name come out there and scrub that information away? Then it didn't come from the Creator. My Creator is infallible, impenetrable, invincible. I'm fallible, I'm penetrable, and I'm flawed. Okay? I mean, a bullet can penetrate, a knife blade can penetrate. Okay? I'm made of flesh and bone, that's what I mean by that. But there are certain things I do not condone. Okay? Set and Heru had homosexual sex. Would you? That's in the Book of the Dead too. Yes, it is. The things that the elite do are not new. And yes, they come from the same belief system that you practice, and it has gotten a hold of you. So you should stop lightweight jamming. If you really want to be about it, be about it or be without it. If that's what you want to get off into, look into the very depths of it, and look at people who knew the best of it and the rest of it. A lot of times, you know, when we make a quest of it, and we looking, we trying to find these things. You talk about white supremacy, but yet you believe that they leave things in the books. And all you got to do is simply look. That wouldn't be very wise. Even the arrogance of the enemy would not allow him to make such a slip as that. Okay? It's because it's to draw the elite-minded, people who are driven by pride, by anger, by resentment, by bitterness. All of these are negative energy entities. What some call jinn, others call demon. Different names. Names change, but the game's the same. And those who are driven by those foul emotions are pushed into this direction. And that's all I really have to say about the subject. And that's why I believe what I believe. Okay? Because again, not the one time. Perhaps you can excuse that away, some sort of way. I've had multiple experiences now. This ain't my first rodeo. That was. Have mercy. I said that was 11 years ago. Since then, the Creator keeps sending me confirmations. Let's say that. And so I'm confirmed. I'm convinced, not conceited. Okay? Because if we have something new to share, I'd love to read it. But it needs to be new. Okay? I've been down some of the same roads as some of you. Some of those roads I revisit. Because for something to be a long-standing lie, some of it must be true. So I revisit to find the truth in different things. Sometimes I forget. I can be reminded. So that's fine. But do not, please, don't try to convince me one way or the other. Don't waste your time. I'm not speaking to anyone in particular. Please don't take offense, because that's not beneficial to me or to you. I don't wish to offend any of you. Okay? If I can do something or bring something worthwhile to the table, that's all I want to do, if I'm able. So again, I thank you all for your time, for your support, and the way I say and the way that I overstand, okay, that they have lied and slandered Jesus and tried to make him just a man. Okay. We understand he came in the flesh for those who believe in the Messiah. Okay. He came in a particular type of flesh. And that's okay. That shouldn't make your face ball up or get tight. Okay. But that's part of why they don't want us to really understand what's truly right. So, in the authority of the name of Jesus, I ask, so ask and you shall receive, that the Creator reveal to you whatever you need to know to take yourself out of any lies and onto the next level, as we all should go. And it is so.